Everybody, welcome to the Early Alert. Brian Good here with you, and we have lots to talk about, so let's dive right into it. All right, first off, we had an opportunity to once again reach at least a record level on temperature, and we did it at midnight. 72 degrees, tied the record. Got the chance to enjoy a little bit more of that warmth before things came to an end. We had the gust front come through around 4 in the morning. Wind gusts here in Louisville close to 40 miles per hour, 40 to 50 miles per hour upstream. Even a tornado warning came out not far from Cincinnati and southeast areas of Indiana. None of our area included in that. But it did push to the south and it stalled out, and now we're seeing, we've had a drop in temperature, but it's been slow because everything is kind of locked up and jammed in the atmosphere, but things will be moving a little more to south and east as we head through the day today. Flood watch is still out in the darker green for most of our counties until Sunday. The brighter green is the flood warnings for most of the area rivers. And we can actually look at the river gauges themselves. And I apologize if this is locking up on you on your computer at home. It's a lot of information it's loading. Anywhere you see either yellow or orange dots, you're talking about flood stage or higher has been met. Let's start down here toward the lock and dam at Cannleton. And those forecasts is to get very close to moderate flood levels. In fact, in Tell City, it is forecast to get to that level as we head into this upcoming weekend. For the McAlpin Lock and Dam, the lower gauge of the Ohio, 56 feet, forecast to go to 59 feet. Still forecast to stay short of moderate stage at 65, but still the worst in 3 years we were talking about for the lower gauge. And really it's a similar story for the upper gauge as well. Already impacted River Road, Blankenbaker's being impacted, Lime Kiln's coming up next to be impacted by the flooding here from the Ohio, 25.2 feet. The last forecast we had on the crest, and it's not really a crest, it's going to be a leveling out. I don't know if it's really going to reach its high point even within range here. That may even happen beyond this graph. But in general, it's forecast to rise to about 28.3 feet. However, that number is about to be updated here very soon. And I'll have that coming for you on midday to let you know if there's any changes. Keeping an eye on the White River, of course, and it too is at 18.37 right now, forecast to go back up again later after the rain falls at 20 feet. And that's the thing, all these other gauges, even though the Salt River, for example, you may notice in some areas it is out of its banks, but technically it's not at flood stage. It's at 17 feet now, forecast to rise when the heavy rain falls. Smaller streams are very reactionary. When you get a heavy burst of rain, they quickly rise. As soon as the rain ends, they drain out and the level lowers. That draining out, though, it goes somewhere, and that is the Ohio. It feeds the basin. So the Ohio takes in everything, and it's all the rivers from Indiana around Cincinnati. In northern Kentucky, it's a tributary to all of it, kind of feed into the one main Ohio River basin itself. So that's the reason why the Ohio can rise and lower slow, but at least we can track that. The bad news is it takes on a lot of that runoff water, and there's going to be a lot. So speaking of that, potential for additional rainfall is still looking at 3 to 5 inches. Higher totals still look to be totaled out closer to the Cape Girardeau area, Foothill, Missouri, down to Memphis and Little Rock. That still looks to be the trend and latest data that I'm seeing coming in. So, the radar trends. You can see where the gust front came through this morning. As I mentioned, it's kind of stalling out a bit here in our southeast counties. Still a bit warm too in that area. And now we're getting what we call just the cold stratiform rain kind of training itself over and over again. But it is going to thin out this afternoon. We're not going to see as much of a steady rain. It may just go to a drizzle for a while, in fact. Totals right now in Louisville, less than a half inch officially in the city. Not the case in every part of Jefferson County. Shepherdsville, almost 0.6 of an inch. More than that in some cases down in our southern counties there. But you can see our far southeast section still trying to catch up because the rain band did stall out a bit. So, here are the temperature profiles. We got 59 here, 57 in Lebanon, 49 in Salem, and 39 into Jasper. In fact, right here is where we're dealing with freezing rain and a bit of snow. That's not going to arrive here, but it gives you an idea that cold air is sneaking up on us on the backside of this train of moisture. And it's wild to look at because you can see the colder influence pushing in from the northwest, but you can still see the low-level flow feeding into that. And the thing is, the gust front typically happens like you would see in the summertime for a cold pulling bow echo. It's getting too far out ahead of the line, and it's going to fade out, and then this becomes the main line again. So that's what you're looking at, even tornado warning out to portions of Louisiana. All right, so what is the game plan here? Well, obviously we've got a huge temperature gradient, so that is going to be a factor in the next few days when it comes to location and as far as how warm you're going to get for Thursday and Friday. Let me show you the latest for this afternoon. Notice that thins out a bit. But then the front itself, it's to our south and east. An area of low pressure will ride along that later tonight, early tomorrow morning, and I think the rain will enhance overnight. Where that enhancement ends up being is going to be a little bit up in the air. I think it's going to be very close to the track of the low, which is going to be central Kentucky and unlikely here in Louisville. You will hear that rain come down pretty good overnight, it looks like. All right, then it begins to at least get some of a break. Let me show you a different way of looking at this. This is the RPM. You see the front stalled here across southeast areas of Kentucky. Watch as we head into Thursday how really a lot of activity begins to ease a bit as we head into about midday on Thursday. But look at the front placement and the numbers. South of the front in the 60s and north of the front into the 40s. And that front placement is going to be key. Here comes the next round of rain, and this is the one that we've been watching for Friday for a while. It'll arrive early on Friday morning, very close to where the boundary is. So where that ends up being is the train track for the heavy rain to track along it. Right now, the Ohio River in southern areas of Indiana look to be right in that zone where that would take place. So we have to watch that carefully with the warm south flow south of the front. Any strong thunderstorm potential on Friday looks to be well south of that, but we'll have to monitor that. You can see we'll be close to 70 in some spots south of the front. So can't rule out a gusty thunderstorm, but I think this is the heavy rain day the way it's trending now for Friday. Then we'll see a break. However, we move into Saturday. Now, this is when the front will actually lift to the north. We get more of a south flow, and we've got a stronger low pressure coming at us. Now, this is a classic setup that we run into a lot where the front is going to be the big catalyst here. How far north can that warm front go? Sometimes they get hung up, and the cold air aloft winds out, and you get the warm sector, you will, the more stormy part of the storm system, being locked into our south. And that's where some of the models are trending, except for the GFS. It really will depend, though, how strong the slow can get and how I can throw that warm air into Indiana. That's going to be key on how warm we get, and it may be another tight temperature gradient. But I still think we're talking about 70s. Then as we get to Saturday evening, the wind fields are just certainly impressive enough that we're going to have some strong to severe thunderstorms work their way through as we head into Saturday night and early on Sunday, and then Sunday is trending drier. Now, the Storm Prediction Center is keeping the potential for severe weather right now limited to, say, the land between the lakes area, Bowling Green, basically, south to Nashville. I think, though, the potential is there for it to get pushed closer to the Ohio River based on the amount of instability that I think is going to be realized. I think the models are still not grabbing a hold of the south flow very well in these warm surges, and therefore they're downplaying these severe weather ingredients. So what will happen is once they get a better idea on the warmth, then suddenly you see everything ramping up when it comes to severe weather ingredients, and the Storm Prediction Center then hurries up and reacts to that, and you get all kinds of maps. I think that potential is there for it to be closer to us when it's shown. The warm front will be key. Looking at the wind fields, again, GFS, very impressive. It's a classic comma-shaped wedge look to the storm system moving through. And when we look at the sounding, I know there's a lot to look at here, but the instability looks to be a bit elevated in nature. That will help in keeping the highest winds from getting to the surface. But in general, the wind is so strong aloft. We call this low top convection. You may read about that a lot in the Weather Service discussions. But the shear is so strong that it just kind of blows the tops of thunderstorms and leans them over, so they don't have a chance to really grow into massive thunderstorms and tap into those really strong winds and push them down to the ground. That is a possibility, but you can still get severe wind gust. So it still needs to be watched. But that will be the issue we'll be tracking. Now, looking at the analogs, they favor at least the potential for any severe weather to take place closer to the Ohio River. Analogs would support, based on past events in this similar setup, that it would be a central southern Kentucky event into Tennessee and to the south. And I like to look at that map. I think that is a pretty good looking idea. Now, we do have what we call the tropical model we use a lot for the hurricanes. It's called Deep Thunder. You may remember me saying this from the RPM. This is where it has the line Saturday night. And look how impressive it's got already with its squall line feature in Tennessee. Now, it doesn't really develop too much in the northern part of it for us. It's betting on a southern Kentucky issue. It lines up a little more with SPC. But I still think that's something that we will need to watch. It also has very impressive rain totals, mainly because of that band, that train track event I was talking about for the Friday wave. It really piles in the totals there along the Ohio River up to 5 to 6 inches maybe. If that is realized, guys, then we will see the Ohio go into a moderate flood stage. So there's a lot to track. It's busy. And I know you want to know about March and how cold is it going to get. It does look colder, put it to you that way. I just don't have enough time. Maybe tomorrow? We'll try.